Hello, welcome to this video on the expectations for residential building design students. We thought it was very important that early on we establish what is expected of you by faculty who are also industry professionals. So the people that you will encounter throughout this course and throughout this program are people who currently work in industry or have worked in industry and will be guiding you from the expectations of the clients that we serve, as well as what you will need to do in order to be successful in this industry. So always keep in mind that this is meant to be supportive and meant to give you insider information, so to speak, so that you'll know in advance how to make decisions regarding your chosen career path. So I'm going to say that this is the most important course you will take. This original starting course is the most important course you will take, and that is because it will set the tone for how the rest of your studies go for the rest of the time that you're here. These are the fundamentals that we're going to cover in this class. This is a design field. Design is different from drafting. Designers draft, but drafters don't design. And the reason for that is that drafters are taught how to delineate what a designer creates. In this program, you're going to be taught how to design. You will also learn how to delineate what you design, but this is not a drafting program. So it's really important in this course that you learn the foundational elements of design in order to be able to be successful, because we are going to create a foundation just like we do for a residence. We start off with a foundation and then we build the walls. We don't start with the roof. We start by making sure that we have a stable foundation, because if you don't have that stable foundation, what happens to the roof? Yeah, it could crack. It could fall in depending on how fragile the foundation is. So we're going to use that analogy a lot just because it relates literally to what we do. But this stuff is foundational. And so it's really, really important that it become a priority in your studies and that you learn and retain the material in the course. And so we're bringing all this up in the beginning to help make sure you understand that expectation. And like I just said, how well you learn and apply this fundamental material will determine not only your success in this program, but your success in this field. When you get out of this, when you graduate, you will go get a job and they will expect you to know how to do these things. Okay, so you want to learn the material and retain it. And so one thing to always keep in mind is, why did you select residential building design as your major? And sometimes when you are working on something, you get frustrated because it happens to everyone. You're working on something and you're challenged and you can't figure out a way around it. Just remind yourself, why are you here? Why is this your major? And that, for most of us, reminding ourselves why we're doing something often helps us find the ability to look at the challenge in a new way, to remember the big picture. And, the big picture isn't this frustrating detail, but the big picture is your career path. I always ask students, how much do you know about your chosen field? And I'm just going to be very straightforward about this. I didn't know. When I decided I wanted to be an architect, I didn't know as much as I should have. And it wouldn't have stopped me from becoming an architect at all. But it definitely would have helped if I had known more, to know that some of the choices I ended up making as a graduate, I might have made different choices. I definitely would have made different choices. And so one of the reasons that this program is different from other programs is that we're giving you this information first. We're giving you this information up front. You're actually going to hear from practicing members of this industry on what they do, and they're going to give you advice so that you know in advance what important things you need to do in order to make choices that are wise for you. Okay. And so this particular module will examine the industry and cover what's expected from you as a residential building design student. And you can see a drawing there, some students sketching in studio, and you can see all their coffee. And I remember when I was a architecture student in it was Southern Tech at the time. Southern Technical College was a 4-year technical college, and I remember we would stay up all night 2 or 3 days in a row, and the food in the dishes begin to accumulate, and the people would be like, where are the architecture students? Why aren't they at this party? It'd be a Saturday night. We'd all be in studio working on a project. So it's really important that you know up front that this is a challenging major. It is hard. It requires patience. It requires you to do things 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times. It requires you to manage your time. It requires what we consider strategic planning to get through the deadlines and the constant challenges. And that never stops. You just start, as you begin this path, you start acquiring more tools for your toolkit to be able to face these challenges and solve them. And I will tell you that where I am now, and I'm old, I don't really get challenged or frustrated the way I did when I was a student at all. I do get challenged, but I also have experience that I've acquired so that I now have more tools, and I know, well, I can use that tool to solve this problem. Or if I don't, I know how to acquire a new tool. In the very beginning, you guys don't have a whole lot of tools in your toolkit. The more you practice, the more you do, the more tools you will acquire, and the less frustrating your challenges will be because you'll have a bigger toolkit to pick from. The study of residential building design requires you to learn theory, application, software, and technology. And we're going to teach you all of these things. You're going to then have to start applying them and practicing them in order for them to become not our tools that we're sharing with you, but for them to become your tools. So those who are most successful do actually share common practices and habits, and we're going to take a look at what these things are. One is originality. I was practicing for 17 years. I did more commercial than residential, but I did both. I currently have a home that I never stopped working on, so I'm constantly working in residential design. And so I left industry right before the big crash. And I actually had been designing educational projects, other projects too, but mostly educational projects. And I kept thinking about how frustrated I was by my education as an architecture student, that I had been taught a lot of theory, but I didn't know that I was actually taught everything. In fact, I know I wasn't taught everything I needed to be successful. And so I had to go out into industry and start learning things the hard way. And I started to think, well, now that I'm older, maybe I can help guide students. And I started thinking about that. And eventually I decided I wanted to teach. Nothing wrong with the industry. It's great. I absolutely loved every minute that I was in it. But this is a better fit for me. So you're not going to hear me knock the industry. You're going to hear me talk about my time in the industry, the challenges I faced, and how I wish someone had, and the information that I wish someone had shared with me to have helped make that better. And that's That's what we're going to talk about moving forward. Okay. So originality. What does originality mean? Well, originality is basically this. Every time you design something, regardless of what it is, and we're going to talk a lot about art and design in context to the big picture of art and design, because architecture is a fine art, just like photography or illustration or painting or film. And so we're going to sometimes talk about it in context to all the arts, and other times we're going to talk about it specifically to our art. Anytime you create art or design and someone is paying you for it, the expectation is that you are going to create something no one has ever created before. That's what you're getting paid for. Otherwise, somebody could just go pull a stock plan that someone else had and copy that house that someone else has. And I know you guys have been in those subdivisions where you're driving down the street and every house looks the same. They just change the materials on the outside, or they flip the floor plan, right? There's no originality in that neighborhood. In order for you to be original, your goal is to do something no one has ever done before. And in our case, design something no one has ever done before. And that is exceedingly hard and challenging. But over time, the more you practice, and you're going to hear me use that word a lot, practice, 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 it just makes you better. Nobody's ever going to be perfect. That saying, practice makes perfect. There is no perfection. But practice does make you better. It does make you good. It does make you sharper and stronger at what you do. Therefore, people are going to pay you money to do these things for them. If art and design weren't an essential element to human existence, then everything would be purely functional and identical. Quite often, sometimes when we talk about design, people see it as something that's not necessary, something that's not essential, something that we could live without. And they say that because they've never done it. They've never tried. I mean, the fact that there's diversity in the world is evidence that our field is paramount to our satisfaction as a species. And so when you are in this field and you're studying design, know that people want to say, well, it's not healthcare. Okay, great. I get it. We want to save lives. But design is very essential to the happiness and the comfort of our species. And you're going to see that. We're going to talk about ergonomics. We're going to talk about universal design. And you're going to find out that if someone sits at a desk in a chair that is uncomfortable, you can impact their physical health, right? Carpal tunnel syndrome. That is a byproduct of bad design. And so good design ensures people's safety and well-being in their spaces. We're going to talk quite a bit about that especially in the kitchen. There are a lot of really great rules for how to design a comfortable, functional kitchen that most people don't even think about. They just know when they use a space that they're tired after using it, or it's uncomfortable to use it, or they can't reach something, right? So you hear the complaints, but people don't realize that those are solvable problems, and we're going to teach you how to solve those problems. Okay. And then one of the biggest things I like to tell students in the beginning is, and it's right here, this one says, never change your originality for the sake of others, because no one can play your role better than you. What I like to say is, you can only ever be a second-rate someone else. But if you want to be first-rate, be you. Now, are there going to be people who don't want or like your style? And you guys will get a style. Your style of design? Absolutely. But the thing is, you're not going to be able to design every house for every person. So it's better that they find the right designer for them and you find the right clients for you, because it'll make your lives easier to work with the clients who do like your style. Okay. And that's something we'll talk about more, right? And as I said, essentially your goal with every new project is to create something new that has never existed before. Design is much more than beauty. It is a visual form of communication based on science and philosophy, and we're going to talk more about that. Okay, so we're going to stop this video here and continue in the next.